People who have adult children that don't talk to you. Why do you think that is? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. My mom was an alcoholic. When I think about my childhood memories, I realized in how many of them she was absolutely drunk. She drove drunk with us and her mood swings were over the roof. It was incredibly bad. I moved out at 17 years old, without even asking her beforehand. I held very little contact with her, until it got so bad that I told her she needs to go into rehab now, or I will never ever talk to her again. That was when I was 20. She did. She got clean and divorced my stepdad, and got her own apartment, and she absolutely thrives. Now she is over 2 years clean. It is wonderful to see. Our relationship is the best it ever was in my entire life. It definitely is possible. Reach out to her, apologize from your heart, and try to build a relationship. Show her that you are truly a better person now. Don't give up when she is hesitant, and understand her anger and pain. It will work out when you both work on it. I wish you guys very good luck for your future. Story 2. From the other parent's perspective. My adult children 25 and 23 do not communicate with their father at all. Long story short, he remarried about a week after our divorce was final, and he and his new wife went on to have children of their own. Over time, his visits with the children became more infrequent and stressful due to his wife's distaste for me and my children. He has had no contact with the kids in over 3 years, and his previous attempt was 4 years before that. My youngest says he will never forgive his father for replacing us all with a new family and forgetting us. The oldest says it's just not worth chasing someone who has no interest. Personally, I'm sad and angry on their behalf. He divorced me, not them. Story 3. My stepdaughter is an addict and mentally ill. Her son was placed in our custody by the state 3 years ago at 13 months old, and she has never made the effort to regain custody. Her rights were terminated last year, and we adopted him last month when the state gave us the choice. She has hated us ever since he was placed here, and has convinced herself that we stole her child. She only contacted my husband if she wanted money, which he won't give her, so that makes her hate us more. Story 4. I was very deep in resolving my own trauma when my kids were growing up. I was often distant and emotionally unavailable. I wasn't the parent they deserved. It is the greatest sorrow of my life. I did to my kids what my mom did to me. I can't be sorry enough. Don't waste your time in shame and regret. You are still alive. Own up to your own mistakes and fix your relationship before it's too late. Write what you wrote here in a letter to your children. Let them see things from your own perspective. Even the best parents can make mistakes. We are no angels. We all have our flaws. Give yourself and your children the chance to heal. Story 5. This is the same reason I don't talk to my parents. My dad once got mad about it over FB, and I flat out told him you never cared to get to know me. Him or my mom, they were both so selfish that we always did whatever they wanted. Yeah, some of the stuff I did with my dad was fun. Snowmobiling and four-wheeling. But whenever as a kid I asked to go do something that interested me, for example, volunteering at an animal shelter, they'd always say no, or I should go do it myself. Even though a minor cannot volunteer by themselves at an animal shelter. My mom once yelled at me because I was upset that she took my sister to a country concert on my 16th birthday. She said, well, if you liked country music, you could come too. So I spent my birthday alone until my dad came home and had me go with him on some errands, nothing I wanted to do. It sucked. I realize now that I am somewhat as selfish as them, and I won't ever be having kids. My bloodline ends with me. Story 6. My daughter went through a traumatic event when she found out her mom was having an affair with a junkie. Daughter was furious at her mom for destroying the family. Mom flipped out, threatened to our daughter's face, blaming her. At that moment, everything shifted and daughter became the nurturer to her mom, who regressed into childhood, a complete switching of roles when my daughter really needed a mom. Mom wasn't safe to be angry at for fear she'd kill herself, so I became the target. We talk, but it's so terse and superficial that it's close to non-communication. I'd like to talk through what happened, even in a therapeutic setting, but my daughter says that's off the table. Story 7. My children are low contact. I feel it's fair. Their mother has BPD. She was violent and abusive. She has gotten help, but she still hurts them. I did not protect them. Them not being around me is justified. They should be angry. We messed up. They didn't do anything wrong and they need to heal as they see fit. Kids not being around their parents have valid reasons. Most people just can't accept it. Story 8. 30 now, folks divorced at about 12. Dad entered a relationship with a narcissist. She was emotionally, physically, and mentally abusive to one of her 3 kids and all 3 of my dad's. He recently separated from her, and we've been able to have some candid conversations about it. He never even knew the scope of what was happening, and didn't see the extremely obvious favoritism going on. Both of my sisters went North Carolina for over a decade. I cut contact for a year before establishing with him, but not her. I never had the opportunity as a teenager and young adult to develop social skills, friendships, communication skills, anything. I was working 16 to 18-hour days 7 days a week. I failed out of college. I paid for my vehicle, my insurance, my cell phone, college. Everything came out of my pocket while I was making $7.50 an hour. Her kids paid for nothing and got everything. Anything we did was for them or adjusted to include them. She has multiple degenerative diseases and is dying a slow and painful death. She has nobody and nothing. She is dying alone and deserves every minute of misery. Story 9. I know of a distant family cousin whose parents fired him from their very successful family business because he refused to take his wife and children to their church and worship the way they did. In retaliation, he and his wife refused to allow his parents to see the grandchildren. They sued, they lost. They never were able to see their grandchildren and eventually died. He ended up with the business anyway by default, not by the will. They lost decades of grandchildren just by being stubborn. Nobody in the family had anything to do with them the last 35 years of their lives, and they were miserable. Screw them. Parents, if you mess over your children, don't expect to ever have your grandchildren. Story 10. I know this wasn't the point of this post, but I am the grown child. 5 years ago, on Thanksgiving no less, my mother told me my wife and I are bad parents because our daughter is an only child. Then followed it up by saying my wife graduated from a terrible high school, not sure where that came from. She then topped it off with an ugly racist remark about my white sister-in-law being married to a black man. Lastly, she said I was not allowed to tell my wife any of this. That lasted about 45 seconds. And that was the end of that. Story 11. There's a woman at church, and every week she asks for prayers during prayer requests. At first I thought it was kinda cute, but it's over a year later and she always asks for prayers so that her children will speak with her. Again, she claims to have been the best mother, and one by one, all 3 of her adult children, and thus her grandchildren, stopped speaking with her. But she did everything right. She fed them, she clothed them, she put them through school, which to me sounds like the bare minimum that you're supposed to do as a parent and not everything, but okay. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, but then, every week, another piece of the puzzle would come out. She tried calling, but her numbers were blocked. She tried to find them on social media, but she's blocked. How strange, she says she was such an excellent mother, why would they block her? She tried reaching out again, and received a handwritten letter on why she should never contact them again. But we never heard the contents of the letter. We were just supposed to pity her and have sympathy, and assume that these entire separate groups of people were evil, and were doing her emotional harm. I got to know her, and she is an abusive narcissist, and nothing short of pure evil. All the red flags you'd expect are there. But, every week, it's pray to Jesus for me, everybody, my evil, ungrateful children, blah blah blah. I'd like to hope she is just clueless, but I understand she is sick, and probably doesn't know how horrible she really is. I feel very, very bad for her kids, but very happy they were strong enough to break away from that hot mess. It almost brings me physical pain now when she asks for prayers that her kids will talk to her again, because I know all she wants to do is resume hurting them. Story 12. They are aware. Many just refuse to work through the discomfort of accepting mending grand mistakes, which usually requires lots of therapy and changing how you live. Generally, parents who were not good enough to do the right thing growing up with their kids don't have the emotional capacity as an even older, more stressed adult to make the changes required. They get to go on doing the same things over and over again, while making their failure a part of their personality. Narcissism. Life isn't a movie. People are creatures of habit. Edit. That being said, I want to add positivity to this. Some things I've learned, the only glimmer of hope I can offer is you can live a fulfilling life in spite of it. Figure out your values, hopes, dreams, and live it out to your fullest. Treat people well, protect yourself obviously, but be good to people. Some may appreciate it, others won't. You will build new friendships and family that treasure who you are. Learn to set appropriate boundaries for your goodwill. Not everyone deserves your absolute best caring self. Just try to be a good person regardless where they fit into your life. That's it. They can be at a distance and still occasionally offer support, but remembering, this isn't someone I want close to me. Or maybe the person is very responsible with their and your emotions and deserves to see your vulnerability and can be trusted. You've got your life to live, so make it what you want. And anyone who really cares for you, granted your behavior isn't harming others or yourself in a hurtful way, will see you're doing your best and will want you to do your life on your terms. It will filter people out of your life, but it's worth it. You got this. Story 13. My mother, who was a psych doctor, started having an affair with an ex-high school friend of mine. We bailed out jail. During the affair, they started drugging Dad's vodka with Ativan to make him pass out. I caught them. I went to the police to report this. They contacted my mother, who was a psych doctor, and the police took me away for evaluation and held in a psychiatric facility. I was held against my will for delusions and threats of violence. Anyways, they held me until Dad collapsed and broke 7 ribs and tore some ligaments on the fall. I begged the people in the psych ward to make an inquiry with his doctor to do a toxicology report and that he will have unprescribed Ativan in his system. Sure enough, he was drugged. I was right. I got released from the psych ward the next morning. The nurses and doctors were like his story was real. So I threw Mom and her new boyfriend out, got Dad sober. Now Mom ran away with her boyfriend, then later find out he beat her to within an inch of life. But Mom has regressed to being a scared child and won't press charges because she's afraid he will come back. Story 14. My son hasn't spoken to me in over 10 years. He had behavioral issues as a teen. I took him to doctor after doctor to get him help. He ended up in a partial hospitalization program. He had them fooled for weeks that there was nothing wrong with him, but one day it all came crashing down. After that, he deteriorated quickly in that program. We had come to the point where he was either going to full hospitalization, a boys' school for troubled teens, or he was going to be arrested for assault. His father, whom he only saw maybe twice a year, didn't want that and said he wanted to take custody of him. The program would only let that happen if my son was enrolled in a comparable program with his father. Father said, of course, didn't happen. My son grew up and was a terror to his father and had little to no contact with me. He got arrested a few times. After one particularly bad fight with his father, he got kicked out. After a few months, my son contacted me on Mother's Day. He told me he was in the Marines and was done with basic training and was going to be given an assignment soon. I'll never forget how proud I felt of my son then. Shortly after, I get contacted by the Marines, asking if I knew where my son was. He went AWOL the day after Mother's Day. After a few years without contact, he contacted me again, said he was doing much better and wanted to visit me. I said yes. I should have known when I had to pay for his bus ticket that he wasn't better. He stayed with me for a few days, and I thought all was well. Not so much. 2 days after he left, I got a call from my credit card company. He stole my card and put $1,600 of airsoft pistols on it. I was given the choice to pay it or call it fraud, in which case the credit card company would press charges. I called it fraud. I haven't seen him since. I'm still his friend on Facebook and have seen that he poses as a wounded Iraq vet. That is disgusting and shows me he hasn't changed at all. That's why I don't talk to him. Story 15. I am very careful with advice that I give to my adult son for fear that he's going to stop taking to me. In my opinion, the kid is making some decisions in his personal and work life that I don't agree with or have concerns about, decisions that I would not make based on experience or my personal views. I am biting my tongue to not say anything. I don't want to be a nagging parent because he is an adult and needs to make his own way. I will give advice when asked, but I've stopped giving out of the blue opinions. I save that for my high school teens still at home. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your those in the comment below.